What if you were isolated aboard a derelict space station, mutilated by a strange infection, and forced into a vile collective consciousness to construct something you couldn't comprehend? This is the story and mystery of Vesper's Host. It's one of the most strange dungeons in the Destiny universe, with many questions that go unanswered. What is the horrifying infection? What is the anomaly? What happened to Atrax? Why is arc light suddenly orange? What are the true intentions of the Vesper AI? In this video, I'm solving all the mysteries that lie in this dungeon. To start unraveling the mysteries of Vesper's Host, we must understand the true nature of Vesper Station and why it has been forsaken. Vesper Station was once prominent in the Golden Age. It's the sister location to the Morning Star. Vesper is a word for the evening star, the antithesis to the Morning Star. Clovis Bray used Vesper Station for experiments he could not conduct on Europa. These were more volatile and unstable, unfit for control on Jupiter's moon. They needed to be isolated and quarantined, and in the event things got out of hand, Clovis put protocols in place that would send the station and everyone on board into the surface of Europa, to be forgotten in the ice forever. Many of the experiments on Vesper Station focused on the Vex. Clovis wanted to control an unbodied Vex mind that he could bend to his will. He wanted this mind to be like one of his many AI, something he could program like a computer. And Clovis wanted this mind to create the blueprints for a window from which he could observe and study unknown Vex. He also desired a fusion between Braytech and Vex technology to crossbreed the two species. Clovis built the Vesper AI to manage the station, though Clovis made sure she had limited power and control. She was isolated and had no connection to the outside world. All she knew was the station, and she was powerless in the face of disaster. Vesper Station was a dangerous place to work.
Resulting from misuse of space gear will be deducted from the responsible party's paycheck. You have doctorates, folks. Act like it.
Whoever's supplying her plasteel is incompetent. One more chamber leak and I'll sue. Get me a new contractor.
Dr. Sayla, attach see Dr. Bray's redactions along with guidelines on professionalism. A minor workplace injury is no excuse for personal attacks.
Dr. Bray, I'm forwarding station-side casualty statistics. Can we talk?
Gas leaks, gravitational space gear causing chaos, infighting between the employees, all of these added to a high number of casualties. And the Vesper AI had no power to stop or prevent the calamity.
In standby, I couldn't have done more than run automated threat assessments. With flawed data, no way to know how many injuries and deaths I could have prevented with core access.
This cultivated a hatred for Clovis Bray within the Vesper AI. She wanted to kill him because of how he treated Vesper Station. It was his guilty secret, and if it were to fall into chaos, he'd let it crash and burn. He did not care for those on board Vesper Station, and the Vesper AI hated him. Disaster would strike the station. A Vesper technician, Istvan, would watch as meteors from distant space would tear apart the solar catchers and the whole of Vesper Station. And this would not be the only time Vesper Station was impacted and heavily damaged. Now, to be clear, these meteor strikes happened during the Golden Age. And we're going to fast forward a little bit to talk about the future, but we'll be back to the Golden Age soon. So following the events of the Deep Stone Crypt, parts of the Morning Star would collide with the whole of the Vesper Station. One fragment of the Morning Star contained the remnant of Atrax 1, the fallen EXO that we encountered within the Deep Stone Crypt. Atrax 1 would still exist in one way or another. This was confirmed by the Pantheon Lord.
The Hidden have relayed rumors that a copy of Atrax 1's mind exists, stored somewhere on Europa. This has yet to be verified. At least 2 of the initial 6 fire team members that destroyed Atrax 1 believe they destroyed a clone, and that the real Atrax 1 still lives. This is under investigation.
So while a copy of Atrax 1 exists somewhere on Europa, it seems that the real Atrax 1 was brought to Vesper Station. We may have destroyed a clone during Deep Stone Crypt, but that couldn't have been the one that was brought to Vesper Station, as it was destroyed completely. The real Atrax 1 was present during the raid, and was most likely trapped within the corridors of the Morning Star. It seems it was the real Atrax 1 that was brought to Vesper Station and would die there. So this raises the next mystery. What corrupted Atrax 1? Clovis Bray attempted to fuse Vex and human technology together. This resulted in the infection that we see throughout Vesper Station. It all starts at the opening to the dungeon, where we find strange cubes and containers. One cube is missing, seemingly the beginning of the outbreak, with a strange infectionist wiring attached to the container and a hole in the ceiling. This is the start of the quarantine breach. the infection broke containment and spread throughout the station. Before the second encounter, the Vesper AI states,
Corrupted biomechanical subject has jumped to a new host. Did you breach containment?
the biomechanical subject is the infection. It's important to note here that this again is the horde fusion between Vex and human technology. If it were just a Vex infection, then everything around Vesper Station will be turned into Vex constructs. This is something entirely different. Perhaps another agent is at play that was used in the infusion. Either way though, the fusion resulted in something that they could not contain. Part of it is an unbodied Vex mind that was fused with different agents, becoming what is called a biomechanical infection. And this biomechanical infection jumped species. From these lore tabs, we can gather that this biomechanical infection was a problem in the Golden Age. It was something that ate through Vesper Station all the way back then.
I don't understand. We're all excited for successful code injection, but it's much too early for insertion into a chassis.
Ate through another container? What cleaning agents are safe to use? We can't afford another fume incident, Istvan.
Someone call the boss. Call Central. We can't shelter in place here. Repeat, we can't.
Pull that log. If someone sends it up the chain, we're all dead.
All. Use of the sample decommission tool is restricted to accredited researchers. If you need to contain something, call security.
From these lore tabs, we can gather that the biomechanical infection was a problem during the Golden Age. They desired to inject it into a chassis, perhaps an EXO one, but it resulted in further chaos. It was such a problem that they wanted to hide it, erase its existence from the logs. Let it be another one of Clovis's guilty secrets. The mention of a chassis is very important here. It shows that they desire to take the unbodied Vex mind fusion, amalgamation, whatever, and put it into an EXO chassis. Throughout Vesper Station, we see a plethora of EXO chassis in chambers, and the first encounter allows us to understand the purpose of the chassis, the experimentation the EXOs underwent, and the fusion Clovis truly desired. It places us in a large open room, with 3 side doors marked with distinct symbols and colors: a blue lung, a yellow brain, and a red heart. In the lung room, we find long tables used for surgery among the wreckage, linked to a fallen ketch. In ancient Greece, pneuma was the word to describe breath or spirit, and was a word associated with the lungs. They believed breath was a vital form of life. It influenced our spirit and kept us alive. Blue is often associated with the spirit and soul. The blue lungs represent spirituality. In the brain room, we find destroyed hallways and walls. We can't discern what this room was exactly used for, but the brain and the walls are a potent yellow. The color often represents cognitive activity and stimulus, which aligns with the brain symbol. The yellow brain represents cognitive humanity. In the heart room, EXO bodies line the walls, with experiments left abandoned. On a table, we see a machine that was about to drill into the skull of an EXO chassis, as well as fractured EXO heads. Past that, we find 2 EXO bodies placed beside each other, and a tube connects their minds together. The experiment here attempted to connect or fuse the 2 consciousnesses as one, to form a singular mind. Inspecting the EXO chambers reveal that some chassis are missing. Each of the 3 symbols represent something within humanity. The blue lungs represent our divine nature. The yellow mind represents our logical, cognitive awareness, and the red heart represents our intrinsic humanity. The blue lung room carries no oddity, and this is representative of the symbol. Blue lungs are a constant, and represent spirituality, something that overlaps between human and Vex. The yellow brain room has no indication of what went on there, though we can associate it with the Vex. The hallways after this encounter are yellow, and hold large vats of radiolaria, so we can associate the yellow color with also the Vex. The red heart room lacks color and connection to the heart. Other than the red heart symbol, there's no actual use of red or something that connects it to the heart in the room. Clovis Bray saw the Vex as divine machines, and wanted to ascend to godhood, to become just like them. Radiolaria is the liquid that drives the Vex, and it is held in their center. Think of the radiolaria as their brain. It is no mistake that the Red Heart Room features experiments on the mind. Clovis Bray wanted Exos to be like the Vex. He wanted to rip away the heart of humanity, having the mind be metaphorically in the center, and no longer bound to morality, just like the Vex. The Red Heart Room is colored with a blue hue, the color of the spiritual. The consciousnesses of the 2 Exos were being fused as one, a replication of how universal and singular the Vex are. Clovis Bray saw the Vex as divine beings, and was obsessed with transforming humanity to become like them. The room bears the symbol of the Red Heart, and it represents destroying the humanity within the EXOs. They were to become just mind and spirit, a divine brain in a machine with no morals to bind it. Following this encounter, we discover more of this biomechanical infection, and we see how it devoured Vesper Station. In the second encounter, we find more chassis chambers. These chambers are the same as the ones that house the EXOs, but inside are not EXO bodies, they're Vex goblins. What was Clovis really trying to do here? Remember, his ultimate goal was to control a Vex mind, fusing Bray and Vex technology together to program the mind. But I think beyond this, he desired a deeper fusion between humanity and the Vex. He may have wanted to use this unbodied Vex mind to bind these Vex EXO bodies together. This of course is not the first time Clovis Bray has experimented with the Vex. The initial creation of the EXOs came with a fatal flaw. Those that inhabited the EXO chassis began to go insane, as their consciousness believed that their body was dead and it would rip itself apart. To remedy this effect, Clovis Bray sought out clarity control from a vision by the K1 anomaly on the moon. Clarity control, one of the veiled statues, and what we now know as a witness dissenter, told Clovis to construct a Vex gate. He did so, and harvested the Vex radiolaria. He did not understand the full effects of the radiolaria, and consuming it led to a terrible fate. Though when it came into contact with clarity control, the radiolaria became purified, and a vital part of the EXO creation. Ultimately, all of his research on Vesper Station resulted in the vile biomechanical infection. It's a horrific fusion between humanity, Vex, and possibly something else. The biomechanical infection would find its way to Atrax 1, and use her body as a host. Here's where things start to get a lot more mysterious. It tore apart the body of Atrax just as it tore apart Vesper Station. It did not attempt to mend it. It left the body mutilated. Atrax's corrupted corpse has missing limbs and exposed body parts. It took control of Atrax's body to build a collective. How Salvation refugees would attempt to find a home aboard Vesper Station, following the events of the Deep Stone Crypt. Aboard the derelict station, they found the blueprints of the window Clovis wanted to build, and instead of using it as a gateway to peer into Vex realities, they wanted to use it for an infinite supply of ether.
Analyzing some old mechanical blueprints. Plenty of ether. These blueprints hold true, though. There's this machine that's in two parts. One collects energy, one uses it. We just need the collector for the servitors. It was set for life.
The Eliksni here slowly begin to die, one by the hands of something the crew called the White Captain, which we know as Atrax 1. The Eliksni on board were joined together as one entity, fusing their minds into a single collective. It's described as a being of hundreds of limbs, lungs, and eyes. Every Eliksni we kill aboard Vesper Station is only a unit a part of this collective. What's really strange about this collective consciousness is that it points to there being an unknown agent involved in the biomechanical fusion. There is something else at play besides Vex and human technology. One Eliksni who was assimilated into this mess noted that she heard not only the Eliksni language, quote, "Faint noises make no sense, words she doesn't understand, the un-Eliksni babbling of a foreign mind." End quote. This collective mind carries the voices of different languages, and a language that she has not heard before. We know that this Eliksni has heard at least the voices of humanity and the Hive, so this is something else entirely. She's never heard this before. This again raises the mystery of what the other part of the infection was. It's a combination of humanity, Vex, and something else. This other vile thing is connected to the purpose of the collective, the Anomaly. The biomechanical infection had Atrax and the collective construct the Anomaly, not as a window to the Vex, not for an infinite supply of ether, but to act as a broadcasting network. Think of it as a large phone. It sends and receives messages. As we fight Atrax 1, the corrupted puppeteer, we can see that she communes with the Anomaly, and has it exert a large blast of Orange Arc energy. The use of the word commune is very interesting, and with the context of it being a large phone, it seems that Atrax is communicating with the other side. And again, this is not by Atrax's volition, it's the biomechanical infection communing with something on the other side. There is another powerful unknown force, the being or entity on the other side. We'll get to that in a minute. But before that, let's take a look at the orange energy that powers the Anomaly.
Power draw on that anomaly is far beyond safe limits. Arc energy shouldn't be that color.
The Vesper AI mentions that this orange power is arc light, though it has been turned orange, something unnatural. Furthermore, being killed by the powers of the anomaly shows anomaly discharge and anomaly bolt. Discharge and bolt are two arc keywords, both referring to bolt charge and arc bolts, and discharge being the name of an arc fragment. These are arc abilities turned into an unnatural and wrong color. At the beginning of the dungeon, we see a blinding light in space and the orange arc light seeping through it, drawn to the anomaly. Like Vesper AI said, the power exceeds safety limits, so it may be due to an oversurge of energy, or perhaps it is linked to a distant cause. And I think it's connected to the entity on the other side of the anomaly, as Atrax communes with the anomaly to charge an orange arc blast. The anomaly, when powered, sent a message to the other side.
Message in abeyance loop transferred to anomaly. Destination incomprehensible. This message was not authorized.
This message was in abeyant loop, infinite suspension, and was sent through only when we killed Atrax. The destination that received the message was incomprehensible. The Vesper AI was unable to get a hold of the original message, though when she received the response from the other side, it left a copy of that original message, and the message simply read, "Hello world," and Vesper AI describes it as a locating ping. And something overrode her command over the anomaly, powering it up in order to receive the message. Something here is working against the Vesper AI, even when we seemingly ended the corruption with the death of Atrax. This raises the next question: who really is the Vesper AI, and who is able to override her command? Throughout the quest after we complete the dungeon, we learn how Clovis put in limits on the Vesper AI. She had limited power, unable to prevent atrocities aboard the station. She was isolated, alone, and could do nothing but watch. Clovis also kept secrets from her, like the existence of her sibling AI.
Rasputin, the Stoneworm Protocols, the Aeon Initiative, Soteria. I had siblings this whole time, and you never let me know.
This detail right here is very important, as it opens the door for even more mystery. We'll get back to this soon. As we delve deeper into Vesper Station and unlock more of her power, the Vesper AI gains director access, full control over the station, no longer bound to Clovis's restrictions. She gains access to what seems like an endless amount of data, and kicks the spider and his Eliksni off the station. She realizes her true name, Astraea, and Astraea tells us she wants to be alone. She has accepted her isolation. Astraea, in Greek mythology, is the goddess of justice, innocence, purity, and precision. The goddess lived among humanity during their golden age. This was a time of purity. There was no evil, and humanity was good. But as time passed, humanity became corrupt and cruel. Astraea saw this and became more bitter. She no longer spoke with gentle words, but used harsh language, and did not encourage them to be better. She abandoned humanity and left to be among the stars, becoming the constellation Virgo. Astraea's story in Greek mythology mirrors Destiny's Astraea. Like in Greek mythology, Astraea was a powerful component during the Golden Age. In those days, she believed she was an aid to the station and Clovis Bray. She thought she was doing good for humanity. But as time went on, she saw how corrupt humanity became. This amounted in her hatred for Clovis Bray. She no longer uses gentle words, but describes her circumstance and others around her with hateful, harsh words. It's also no mistake that Jupiter sometimes lies in the Virgo constellation. Astraea was meant to be an enforcer of justice and purity on Vesper Station, though Clovis Bray kept her the opposite, not allowing her to do anything but stay idle. This is when the previous message comes back into play, the mention of her siblings, Rasputin, the Stoneworm Protocols, the Ion Initiative, and Soteria. Rasputin and Soteria are established AI in the Destiny universe, though the Stoneworm Protocols and the Ion Initiative are two brand new names. We have little to go off of when it comes to the Stoneworm Protocols. There are no direct connections, save for Solomon Shamir. This is a mythological worm that had the power to cut through and disintegrate stone. It is said that King Solomon used it during the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem, in place of using tools, since tools symbolize bloodshed and the temple was to be a place of peace. This is a stoneworm. I think the Stoneworm Protocols refer to an AI that was used in the creation of something important, though outside of that it's hard to tell. The Ion Initiative is up next. Ion is a Hellenistic deity associated with time and the zodiac. Ion represents unbound time that is cyclical and ritual. The future is a returning version of the past. Kronos is the Greek deity that represents linear and progressive time, and ion contrasts linear time with the empirical. In the Greek poem called Dionysiaca, Ion, quote, changes the burden of old age like a snake who slaws off the coils of the useless old scales, rejuvenescing while washing in the swells of the laws of time, end quote. This is the idea of the Ouroboros, a ring that is formed when a snake devours its own tail. This image is a symbol for the cyclical nature of time, the nature of Ion. In Destiny, perhaps the Ion Initiative was a creation to harness the cycle of time. The Warmind Rasputin was Clovis Bray's most impressive feat, an AI equipped with a military to protect humanity if action was needed. He's named after the Russian mystic Grigory Rasputin, a man who had influence over the Imperial Romanov family dynasty, and he was the subject of many assassination attempts. The Warmind has claimed that, quote, I bear an old name, it cannot be killed, and the real-life Rasputin survived many attempts on his life. Soteria is the Greek goddess of safety, salvation, deliverance, and preservation from harm. She was viewed as a personification of recovery and safety. The Greeks even dedicated a temple and statue to her in Patri. She is commonly depicted with a laurel wreath crown, a symbol for victory. In Destiny, Soteria, also known as the Augermind, was an AI able to accurately predict the future. Soteria was a joint venture between the Ishtar Collective and Braytech to usher in a new age of humanity and aid extrasolar research. She was made to deliver humanity from Sol during the Golden Age. Peering into space and time, she discovered the encroaching Black Fleet and sent out unauthorized colony ships to save humanity. Clovis Bray was angered by this attempt and trapped her within the Ares Spire, the location of the dungeon, Spire of the Watcher. In a final desperate measure, Soteria splintered herself. Part of her left on board the Exodus Indo, which is the colony ship that made its way to Neptune. On Neptune, the fragmented Soteria went by the name of the Occlusion, and aided in the development of Neomuna. Soteria was left trapped within the confines of the Ares Spire, and only when our guardians attacked the Pillory Bunker did we free her. She escaped her chains and bound herself to the hierarchy of knees. However, she was a husk of her former self. As Anna Bray describes, she's borderline non-functional, won't or can't communicate, but a lot of her subconscious subroutines are still firing. Soteria was an augur mind, a contrast to Rasputin being a war mind. An augur was a Roman title for a priest who predicted and studied the will of the gods and the future. Soteria was meant to be a foreteller, to deliver humanity from Sol. She was meant to preserve humanity, yet Clovis Bray limited her power when she saw the collapse approaching. Equipping certain weapons before and after the change of the Vesper AI to Astraea reveals hidden dialogue.
Braytech scan failed. Your gear is out of order. Braytech scan failed. Your gear's out of order.
From this dialogue, we already see a change in her tone and attitude. Before, she is more pure and innocent, but after the realization, she's become more bitter. This again mirrors the Greek story of Astraea, and how her language changed when she realized how corrupt humanity was.
Interdicted machine intelligence. I don't understand. I don't understand. Is that Soteria? Talk to me, sister. Why won't you talk to me?
Before, Astraea saw the AI within Hierarchy of Needs as nothing more than something she couldn't understand, a limit placed by Clovis. Afterward, she had realized the truth about Soteria and tried to talk to her, but she doesn't know that Soteria is incapable of speaking. And Soteria herself might recognize Astraea as a sister, but she cannot speak. A sisterhood between AI that cannot develop because of the malicious intent of Clovis Bray.
You're contaminated with banned technology. Security will be alerted. Be more careful, alright? More mind tech. I can finally reach out to you, and you're gone.
Using Outbreak, Astraea first recognizes the Siva nanites as banned and outlawed technology that require immediate attention. After, she realizes the truth about Siva, that they are Warmind technology. She attempts to communicate with Rasputin, but is unable as he is dead. Again, another tragic realization. As soon as she uplifts the barriers between herself and her siblings, she is unable to speak with them. They are gone, lost, or fractured. Even after revelation, she continues to be isolated.
Ishtar probe detected. Message from Dr. Bray reads, Corporate espionage, Maya. I expected better from you. Ishtar Collective circuitry. I've done some reading. I like this Dr. Sundaresh.
While Braytech and the EXO Collective worked together during the creation of Soteria, Clovis does not seem to trust her. The final warning was built using an old spectrometer, and here it's pinged as illegal hardware, a tool Clovis suspects is used to spy on him. Astraea mentions that she is fond of Maya Sundaresh after doing her research, which is a little concerning. Maya Sundaresh as the conductor is still out there, and Astraea seems to take a liking to her. Equipping only pulse rifles and sniper rifles also provides new dialogue.
Braytech scan is clean. Have a safe and productive day. Braytech scan is clean. But you're not one of my researchers.
It's strange that pulse rifles and sniper rifles are what determines a Braytech scan as clean and pure, as when you go in with any other weapon, the gear is labeled out of order. With the Astraea revelation, we can return to the anomaly and the response. The following message is a response to the initial ping and hello world message, though it is received when Astraea does not have full control over the station.
Warning! Unauthorized message coming through the anomaly. Data follows. Lodi transmitting. Status moonsick. Adrift. Odyssey Protocol active. It repeats from there. Do you recognize the code?
Let's unpack this message sentence by sentence. Lodi is the person or name of people transmitting this message. Their status is moonsick, seemingly lost in space, and now the Odyssey Protocol has been activated. Lodi is the name of a town in California, which gained notoriety from the song Lodi by Creedence Clearwater Revival. The song Lodi released in April 1969 with the album Green River. It follows the story of a musician who plays at local bars around the town and becomes stranded, unable to leave the town. The release year is very important to note. It's 1969, the bookend of the 1960s, and also the year of the Apollo moon landing. We know that Bungie writers were inspired by the 60s when creating the next expansion, codename Apollo, and listened to 60s music during the writing process. It's no mistake that Bungie named Lodi after this song, and it has roots to the 1960s, and also the Apollo moon landing. Next up, the status of Lodi is moonsick, adrift. Moonsick means insane or emotionally deranged, either temporarily or permanently. It seems that Lodi has become insane and unstable, adrift and lost in space. It's also interesting to note here that the A-side song of Green River is called Bad Moon Rising. The song notably uses weather imagery to describe and foretell that there is evil and trouble. Quoting the song, "I see the bad moon arising, I see trouble on the way, I see earthquakes and lightning, I see bad times today." While the connections to Vesper's Host here are a little indirect, it's still important to note the meaning here. The status of Lodi is moonsick, and trouble is on the way, as Bad Moon Rising states. The Odyssey Protocol is the final line here. Odysseus was a Greek king who left to fight in the Trojan War, but became stranded for 10 years. The story is outlined in the Odyssey by Homer. Odysseus' crew would die over the course of 10 years, leaving Odysseus isolated. Becoming shipwrecked, Odysseus found the Phaeacians, who helped him return home to Ithaca when he slept. Odysseus' homecoming is one of the most iconic moments of this story. So first off, we know that Lodi refers to a human settlement or person. We know this by their English and the reference to the Greek mythology with Odysseus. But because of the reference to the song Lodi and the story of Odysseus, I believe Lodi is a singular person. These two stories are about a singular man lost and alone who attempt to return home. Lodi is a singular person who became lost, went insane, and now has activated the Odyssey Protocol to return home. He seemed to be only able to activate the Odyssey Protocol due to the powers of the anomaly and the biomechanical corruption. Lodi is the one who influenced the biomechanical corruption. He had it corrupt the Eliksni and Atrax and forced them to build the anomaly. Using the power of the anomaly, Lodi was able to find the location of Vesper and tell us he's on his way home. But I don't think Lodi is someone we should trust. He is moonsick, as the message says, and that drove him to influencing the corruption. We have to remember, he's coming from destination incomprehensible, and there's still that strange language that was in the collective mind. We've seen how terrible the biomechanical infection is, how it tore up and devoured the station. It turned the Eliksni into puppets that Lodi could play with. Something drove Lodi to insanity, and he's on his way here. It'll only be a matter of time until he makes his homecoming. When going back through the dungeon after Astraea gains full control over the station, we can hear a bit more dialogue.
That's what I'll do to Clovis's grave. Once I find it. The corruption is spreading, taking on new hosts.
Even after we thought we put it to rest, the corruption still persists. It still continues to devour, mutilate, and infect. under the influence of Lodi. This name is one that must be remembered and questioned. Lodi overrode the commands of Astraea, somehow messed with Arclight, took control over the corruption, to then force a collective consciousness to build the Anomaly, and Lodi is ready to make his homecoming. Thank you for watching this video. It's quite a lot of lore, but I feel like Vesper's Host deserved a big deep dive, and I think it came out pretty well. If you enjoyed this style of a large lore video, please let me know in the comments. And again, thank you for watching.